Hello, Manta Rays. Welcome to our newest podcast, Beneath Marco's Waves, where Marco's past rises to the surface. I'm Bella Groves, the arts editor here at The Wave.
And I'm Alina Nguyen, the managing editor. Today we are so happy to be joined by our first ever guest, Tish Champagne. Woo!
Today we are going to be asking our lovely guest, Mrs. Champagne, about the humble beginnings of Marco Island. Mrs. Champagne, could you introduce yourself, please? Tell us how long you've lived here and let our listeners know your role in the Marco Island Historical Society.
Well, I moved here in 2007, so I've been here almost 20 years. And I would say from day one, I was retired at that point, so I still felt like I needed to do little things. And at that point, I joined the Marco Island Museum. And at that time, we were building the museum. And so I've been with them from day one. And this past year became president of the Marco Island Historical Society.
Wow.
What's your favorite part about the Historical Society?
I think it's feeling that we are doing the right thing. We're preserving the history of Marco Island. It is so rich, and most people don't really know about the history of Marco Island. Most people see it as such a young city because all you ever hear is when the Mackle brothers built Marco Island. That's 1965, and that's pretty young for a city. But it has a vast history that surprises most people.
Yeah. Well, to you personally, what makes Marco Island special?
Well, I came out of a fast-paced life. I lived most of my life in L.A., and I was on a fast track, building my career, and always in the back of my mind, I thought at the end of the road, I would love to retire somewhere where I could breathe clean air and be around wildlife. And in my travels, which I was lucky enough to do extensively, I visited many islands. And you'd always, I'd always look around and think, how could you ever live here? It'd be so incredible to look out your window at a dolphin. And when finally my husband and I both retired and we're picking out where we wanted to live, I always knew I wanted it to be on water because I did come out of California. So I am a water person. And someone recommended this island. We had never been here. Our first visit here, we toured around on different homes and home sites, and the beauty and the serenity, and also it's a little slower here.
Yeah.
And we were ready to slow down. There comes a point in your life when you've worked really hard and you've achieved everything you wanted to achieve, and it's kind of time to take a step back and relax. And we felt that we could relax here.
Yeah.
There's something about coming over the bridge. It never fails me that after all these years, the minute I hit the bridge to come over, it's like I just take a deep breath.
Yeah. So you say you are from LA. Is that where you grew up? And would you say growing up or living on Marco feels different from living inland?
Well, I was born in Utah.
Okay.
And as soon as I graduated from high school, then I was moved to LA. So, I think my personality was always around nature.
Yeah.
In Utah, it's so beautiful. LA, it was my, get get it done.
Yeah.
It was get my life going and achieve, and it was such a fast pace. I tried to take out time for myself, but it was pretty hard. Those were years and years of working 12, 14-hour days. And so I did learn something, especially now in living here. I could never go back.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I mean, I've fallen madly in love with the pace here. It is slower, and it's cleaner and nicer. I've always felt that I was surrounded by very giving, generous, nice people here. Since I came from the West, I had never been around Midwesterners, and yet I found that when we first moved here, and over probably the last 10 years, Marco Island is filled with Midwesterners, and they're such good, kind, giving human beings. Out West, LA became way too fast, and people became way too self-involved for me. And I stayed there all those years, but I always knew that that's not where I wanted to end up. So I love it here.
You always hear the term island way of life. When you think of living where we do you think that island life is still here or is it disappearing?
I think you can't help but have a slower pace here. There's something about, and I'm jealous of people that grow up here, and I would hope that you never take for granted that, I open my drapes in the morning, and what greets me is a great white heron, ibis, dolphin. If I walk outside to talk to someone, a manatee comes by. How could that not affect how you feel here? So, and also, you sit next to someone in a Hawaiian shirt and shorts. So we do have an island life here. We do have that, and I feel the difference even when I go to Naples. It's not the same, It's things speed up there, but it's true about that term island life, and we still have it, and I would hope we never lose it.
Do you think all the new modernization, like all the new construction and the new huge houses have played a role in the island life kind of dissipating in a way?
Yes, and I think it's incredibly sad to see that happening. I've become more involved in saving our tortoises, in saving our burrowing owls. I don't understand that people come from other places to Marco Island and they want bigger and better and faster. If those are the things you want, I don't think an island is the place to do it, because we're mowing down lots, beautiful lots that house wildlife here, and they're doing it so quickly that we can't even rehouse our owls or tortoises. Or I have people, I stop for a tortoise to cross the road, and I have someone behind me screaming and honking their horn at me. And, this is special here, and I hate to see growth and the kind of growth happen and cause us to lose a lot of that. We that's a real soft part of my heart here as our wildlife, because it's so rare anymore in this day and age to still have wild animals around them. And you get people, we have coyotes and they want to get rid of them. We have bobcats. Well, we share our land with bears, with, alligators. I mean, we share this land with everything, and yet it's us, human beings that say this is our land and you're out of here.
Yeah. For sure.
And that hurts. It really does. That hurts. As old as I've gotten, you realize that really isn't the way to go. And that's why history here and preserving history is so important, that we actually have a historical museum so that people see how important this island is, and that you learn by our history. It touches my heart.
Yeah. How does just being on an island surrounded by water all the time shape the way that people live here, generally?
I think people are a little more laid back.
Yeah. For
Sure. It's only it's the people that actually move here that they do slow down, but it's the guests we get that I've noticed in recent years that seem to rile things up. When you live here, you're used to driving slower. You're used to people getting older. You're used to having kids riding around everywhere. And, but I had a disturbing episode at the grocery store just a month ago. We had a tough off season here this summer. We had more guests than I've ever seen before, and they're coming from different areas than they usually come from. And I was at the grocery store in line, and the person in front of me was berating our cashier for being so slow. And that's what you never used to see here. You didn't really ever have people honking their horns at you, or giving you the finger.
Yeah.
Here, people seemed to get into the island life of being a little kinder, and maybe it's because you do see wildlife around you continually, and you see beautiful water, and somehow when people visit us, it disturbs me even more that you could be a visitor here and not be happy. Not be happy. And I really did. I stopped this man, and I couldn't help myself. I was like, "Are you visiting here?" And he was. And I said, "Then
You
go
have no
home."
right. Yeah.
Yeah, go home. We go home. We don't treat each other like
Yeah.
this. We don't. I've always felt that we're kinder here.
So what are some things that people often get wrong or assume about island life?
Oh, probably that we're all drug
Oh,
druggies.
yeah.
Like hippies.
We're all hippies.
And we just spend all our days by the beach. Yeah.
And not all the bars, and
And we're all super tan.
Yeah.
super tan. Yes, and that we're also on the other end, that we're all old. I mean, we are older, but the reputation of Florida is that people retire here, and we're all old and don't know how to drive anymore. Don't even know how to have fun anymore. And so that's a misconception.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's move on to Marco's history. I don't know much about Marco's past. What makes its history stand out the most?
Well, I think what's interesting, the aspect that most people don't understand or just aren't aware of, is that Marco Island goes back 7,000 years.
Wow.
And if you put that, so we had indigenous people on this island 7,000 years ago, and they were hunters and gatherers. They used tools, and to put that kind of in a historical sense, 7,000 years ago was the time that Stonehenge was being built. The pyramids were just starting to be built.
Wow.
And we had these indigenous groups on this very island.
Yeah.
And they were called the Calusas. There were also the Muspa. They melded pretty much together, and were here for the next 600 years.
Wow.
And left their history. We have their artifacts, that's incredible. And we have sitting at our museum on little old Marco Island are the most important artifacts ever found in North America. They're so valuable and so old that they can't even put a price on it. But at little old Marco Island, that's the misconception, is that we started in 1965. But we didn't.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard the Calusa mentioned before, but who really were they, and why are they so important to Marco's story?
Well, they're important because they left behind their history for us to discover. They used tools. I mean, 7,000 years ago, that's just when human beings are starting to evolve into hunters, gatherers. Their tools were made from shells. They left a pretty rich heritage, and you piece it together of they worshipped animal figures. Their gods were, the panthers, and so they were intelligent human beings, and they lived here before we had anyone north. I mean, it's one of the oldest heritages.
Would you say that you're still finding artifacts from what they've left over, like their history, or are you guys pretty
Yep.
much done?
Nope. In fact, we're in the fight.
Yeah.
Because what's happened is it's one archaeologist said to me many years ago that it would be very hard to put a shovel in the earth on Marco Island and not find something. That's how, because it was such a concise area and these groups grew fairly large, most of our hills are made out of mounds that they made with shells. The shells they made massive shell mounds, and they had a vibrant life, and so there were laws put into effect probably 20 years ago, if not a little longer, that certain areas of Marco Island are so rich in history and barely touched by archaeologists. I mean, thank God in 1896, Cushing was the one who had heard a farmer had dug up something strange on Marco Island, and he got together a group of archaeologists to come down, and that's when they found, within 4 months, they found 1,000 artifacts that pristine.
Wow.
Pristine.
Yeah.
1,000-year-old artifacts that were pristine because they'd been buried in muck with no oxygen. So that's where the Marco Island cat came from, which we're most famous for, because it is the oldest artifact ever found in North America.
Wow.
The most valuable. And masks that they had painted. So they had a very, very active life. And so luckily, 20 years ago or so, we started to pass laws that in certain areas on Marco Island, if you're going to dig, you're going to build a mega mansion, you first have to follow the law, and that is that you have to have an archaeological study done on that property. Well, what's happened is, Marco's grown. People move in. They want their house done quickly.
Yeah, right away.
Right away. And you know what? Those laws, what law?
Yeah.
They get their permits and they're gone. Well, this year the Marco Island Historical Society and me as a president decided we're not going to allow this to happen anymore, because we were seeing artifacts destroyed.
Wow.
And so we've come back to the governor, to the city of Marco, and we have now demanded that we continue with these archaeological sites. It's not up to me or the society what someone wants to build on the piece of property they buy, but they can take the time.
Yeah, at least have
to
the courtesy.
At least, yes, at least be kind to Marco Island.
Are there any traditions, legends, or stories from the island's early days that most outsiders don't know about? I've heard about the Indian bubble myself that protects us, but I'm curious to see what you've heard.
Now, you've got to teach me the Indian bubble.
Okay, so I've heard stories about there's like an Indian bubble that protects us from bad hurricanes. Like that's why if you drive over the bridge from like Naples, it'll be pouring on Naples. You drive over the bridge and it's clear. I don't know if that's a Florida thing or an Indian bubble thing, but I've heard a lot about the Indian bubble.
You know, I never heard it as the Indian bubble, but I've heard the legend.
Yeah.
Because when people would ask us why we were moving to Florida because of hurricanes and everything, I had already heard it that the Calusas, they were so smart where they picked to build their village for the next eons. They picked Marco Island because it was protected.
Yeah.
And the reality was, when you go back and you look at the history, it's our mangroves. It's the way the island sits. And we've always had all these barrier islands around us, the 10,000 islands. So if hurricanes were coming, the Calusas knew that they would hit the barrier islands first and protect where they built, which was Marco. And so I still believe that.
Yeah.
You know, I live out on the edge of Caxambas, and you have to admit that climate change.
Yeah.
We'll get controversial here, but you can't live on Marco Island and not believe in climate change, and not notice that the oceans are rising. And thus, climate change has changed our bubble a little.
Yeah.
You know, we're less protected because we're destroying a lot of those islands that have protected us all these years. Then I'll say that's my personal opinion.
Do you have any traditions or legends that you want to share?
I think the one that I loved the most was that we supposedly, the Spaniards had said that the Fountain of Youth was on Marco Island.
Oh, wow.
Ponce de Leon came here on Marco to find the Fountain of Youth, because the Spaniards, when they started to come to Marco, and that's how we eventually lost the Calusas, is they brought European diseases. But when they came, they always put it on the charts that this was the place to get fresh water.
Wow.
Because we had all these springs. And somehow, you know what? I've even tried to say or look into the history of who was the first person to say the Fountain of Youth was here. But we still have several fresh springs here. And I love to think that Ponce de Leon believed the Fountain of Youth was here. Now, St. Augustine has always claimed that they had it. But I love that legend.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
Yeah.
As you've said before, you've lived here for a very long time. What was Marco Island like before all the development and tourism?
You know, I haven't been here as long as a lot of people I've met, and I'm very envious of that because I always listen to their stories.
Yeah.
You know, people who actually bought in 65 and 1970. This was truly an island. I mean, island life.
Yeah.
Hard to get here. You know, people from Naples I still meet people that have said to me, "Oh my gosh, you come all the way from Marco Island?" I go to Naples daily, practically,
Yeah.
you know. But Marco was always known as very hard to get here, you know, dangerous single roads and blah, blah, blah. I think I've seen a bigger change in just the last 5 years than the previous 15 years here I was here. What was always fun about living on this island was we have 2 seasons. One is tourist season, and one is
Off-season,
off
yeah.
season. And off season, if you're a year rounder, we love off season.
We love it.
Just love off season because everyone stays away. They
Yeah.
think it's too hot. So we have the island ourselves, and it kind of reverts back to you can go anywhere you want, get in any restaurant. I love it that restaurants close and businesses used to close all summer. So it'd force you to venture off the island and go go to Naples and eat.
But that's the bad thing. Not bad, but the downside to off season is that the restaurants do struggle.
Yeah,
A little,
yes.
because it's just like everyone disappears. Like no one's, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I work at a restaurant, so
Yeah.
it's like the difference is so obvious. Like December, there's lines out the door, and then summer, I'm like, where y'all at? Like, where is everybody? Like,
Yeah.
it's hard, but during season, that's what season is for. Like, they prepare for the off season, or some restaurants, like the Little Bar, they
Little.
close for the off season. Some restaurants take some time off to like renovate, paint, fix things that were broke during season. But
Yeah. And I loved that way of
Yeah.
life. I really did. I know that we always felt also that you had to support the businesses that stayed open. It was all our responsibilities to keep them here. Because, I remember when we first moved here, we would lose restaurants because they couldn't make it through the off season. Any restaurant that had been here for quite a while, they knew how to handle it because they did, like make hay while the sun shines, because there's going to be a lull. I'd say this was barely an off season here.
no, yeah, I would agree with you as well. It was very like, it wasn't dead. There were some people here and there, but it wasn't the burst I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's changing. We are getting more people have discovered us. It's human nature that if you find a gem, it suddenly is your gem, and you don't want anyone else to have it.
Yeah.
And we always have to fight that attitude that no, we have to share.
Yeah.
We do for the survival of the island.
How do you think the community and culture has shifted as more people have moved onto the island?
Oh boy, that is a tough question. To me, in the last few years, I think, we're only reflecting what's actually going on in the world. People now moving onto the island are faster paced.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we moved here, there were more retired people. But as my husband and I always knew, we still wanted families on this island. That's why we wanted a high school on this island.
Yeah.
We wanted to see the island grow to involve young people too, because that's what you need to survive. You really do. You need youth and education around you. So, up the first 15 years we were here, we saw it grow with younger people starting businesses here, bringing their families, making families here. The type of people we're getting in the last 5 years has changed somewhat. We're getting people that really want to more exploit the island. And that is my personal opinion. But they come with grand ideas from where they come from, that we should be that. That we should be bigger, that we should be faster, that we should have different, beliefs. This island was set up by the Mackle brothers, and when they did it in 1965, they made room for every denominational church.
Mm-hmm.
They made room for schools, all ages. They planned an incredible community that would enhance itself with different religions and youths and now we're getting, I think, a little too political, but it seems to me that that's what's happening in our world today.
Yeah.
And how can it not affect our Marco Island?
Mm-hmm.
So the dynamics of the political soundings today have affected this island too.
Okay, so as you mentioned before, Mackle Park is a pretty well-known park here for the youth that is named after the Mackle brothers. Can you describe their impact on the island and how influential they were?
Boy, we would not be the Marco Island you see today without the Mackle brothers. They saw the beauty in an island that was pretty much deserted at that time. We'd gone through the pioneer age. We had small little villages set up. Marco village was down by Snook.
Mm-hmm.
We'd had, farmers living down there. Fishing was happening. A huge clam factory had opened. And then they opened another village on the other end of the island, the southwest side, called Caxambas. And that's the estate area now.
Mm-hmm.
And they also got into clamming and pineapples and everything. So we were kind of hopping from 1870 to 1920. And as the Depression happened in 1929, that also affected Marco Island. It affected everyone. People lost their fortunes, and so people who were investing in Marco Island at that period of time could no longer invest. So that's when quite a few people left Marco Island.
Mm-hmm.
And so we sat dormant through the 40s, just small houses every which way. But, we'd been overfished. The clams were gone. It was a very slow time. And so then you get into the 60s, and the Mackle brothers were builders and building huge communities, and they flew over Marco Island and saw the beach, our beautiful concave, what am I trying to say? Crescent, our beautiful crescent white sand beach. And they had a great idea that, hey, we should make this a community. Obviously, it was a money-making deal. They had partnered with another huge corporation. But what you have to say about the Mackle brothers is they came in earnestly to build a beautiful community. They mapped it out perfectly, as I was saying before. They knew where they wanted churches. They knew where they wanted schools. And they began to build. They bought Marco Island for $7 million, had planned to put $500 million
Wow.
into it, and really did a beautiful job. They became, there was eventually the 50s, or excuse me, not the 50s, the 70s happened. The environmental agency became involved in digging out the canals. And the Mackles had already sold quite a bit of property, and they had to stop immediately. Stop building, stop everything.
Wow.
But what they did do, and what you really have to hand to them, is they were honest. At that time, there were incredible rumors about other people building up Florida and selling swampland. That was a huge thing in the 70s and 80s, is that there were a lot of crooks selling swampland in Florida. But the Mackle brothers' idea for Marco Island was a great idea, and they stood behind it. And they actually went into eventual bankruptcy because they paid everyone back. People, if you had a piece of property that you'd purchased and it was on a canal that they were building, so it was no longer buildable, you could either pick another lot that was buildable that the agencies weren't involved in, or they'd give you your money back.
Wow.
And they did it every single
That's
time.
really respectable.
Yeah, so we've always looked at them as really good people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met several of the grandkids, and they're just really wonderful people. And they did have a beautiful dream, and it has happened. It is here.
Yeah.
But it took a lot of work and a lot of, they eventually were bankrupted. But it was that they had already paid everyone back.
That's good, though. So you talked about how they planned everything out when they were coming here, like where they wanted the schools and everything. So we are at Marco Island Academy right now. Did they plan for us to have a high school, or was it only the middle and the elementary school?
Oh boy, that's opening a whole can of worms.
Oh no.
Of course, they planned for an elementary school, a middle school,
Because those are right
and
next
a high
to
school.
each other.
Yes.
But we're all the way on the other end of the island.
Right, and so they definitely gave property for a high school.
Okay.
And that piece of property is sitting over on the other side of the island. But that would be for another podcast for you guys, because that would be probably a great podcast for you guys to do in talking about the history of MIA.
Okay.
Because there was property set aside for you guys. And you ended up here because of a grand fight
Oh, why?
on Marco Island about where the high school was going to be.
Okay.
And, I'm proud to say that I was also involved in that.
In the fight?
Yes, in the fight of where you guys were going to be placed. Because when we came to Marco Island, we met Jane, who had a dream, and we had the same dream.
It's so amazing that the dream came to life.
And it came to life, and
Yeah.
it took 10 years. What are we now? 10 years. It took 10 years of hard work, but no one could stop us. And they tried. So that should be one of your...
So we talked about the people who influenced Marco's past, but nature itself has always been a big factor in shaping island life. How has the environment played a role in Marco's story?
Well, when you think about it, it was always rich in wildlife. So as far as hunters and gatherers, that's why they obviously came to Marco in the beginning. They lived off the fish, the shell life.
And you talked about the pineapple
yeah.
farming. Is that what that
Pineapple
was?
farm
Yeah.
was done right next door to you guys in Key Marco,
Okay.
or Coors Island, and then also in Caxambas. So that brought farmers. Actually, even you have to admit that the bird life brought people here because they wanted the feathers of our birds. They were such beautiful, different colored birds that during the 20s they would come and hunt our birds. So we've always had incredible resources. And I think there's still hopefully an appreciation for that, for our resources. It's why a lot of different laws were passed on what fish you could fish, because it was, soon we ran out of fish.
Yeah.
We ran out of resources. We ran out of clams. We ran out of, our resources because we overdid it. Society overdid it. But laws were passed to limit certain birds. Thank God, our bird life is coming back. We're still trying to prove that we can bring the birds back. It's nothing like it was in the 40s and 50s, and turn of the century even. But we're trying to save what I think most of us cherish about Marco Island, the environment.
Earlier, we mentioned that the threat of climate change is a problem on Marco. What are the biggest threats that Marco Island is facing right now environmentally?
That's a great question. It really is. I think for anyone not to believe in climate change right now is insane. That's my personal opinion. But since I've been here, since 2007, I've watched our ocean rise.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone in this room has been to Cape Romano. And if you ever witnessed the dome houses out there, well, they are now totally underwater. That was a thriving little community out there, which it is one of our barrier islands that protects Marco Island. And probably that island will be totally gone in another 100 years. Yeah, so the oceans are rising. And why are the oceans rising? Because the climate's changing and getting warmer. The argument of it's cyclical, that it goes around and it'll come back, and that's for all the scientists. In my lifetime, I'd love to see that the climate changes back to where it was. But that it does, the ocean, since we're an island, a barrier island, the ocean's rising is a problem.
Could you tell us a little bit about the dome homes and their origin?
I was fascinated with them from the day I moved here. I had to get out there and see them. Now, when I saw them, they were still on land. They were a typical building of the 60s. We also had out there a pyramid house. And I don't know if
Really?
Yes.
I've never seen that one.
Well, that kind of went first.
Yeah.
So what we had were interesting human beings that wanted to build different kinds of housing and wanted to live out away from people. So Marco Island was too crowded for them.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. It really was. And you can come to the museum, and we have tons of information on the dome houses. We have pictures of the interiors.
You used to be able to walk through.
Yeah, I remember when I was
Yes.
little, my parents would take me to walk through them.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yes, and then the gal that they had a daughter, and she went to school here on the island.
Wow.
She also had a horse out there.
In the dome homes.
Wow. Yeah. So that was a cute little community, and sad to say there's not. I guess Ian took out the last.
Yeah.
They're now.
Are they underwater? Or
They're
destroyed?
underwater. Nope.
Okay.
Throughout the last 20 years, we lost two of them, absolutely destroyed by hurricanes. But then the water rising, there's still three underwater.
Is there any way we could recover them? Is there any way we could get, like, or do they just...
No, I would imagine that it would, for one thing, all that's left is cement structures. You can still see the domes.
Yeah.
The three domes are there, and their structures. There are people that go out and dive on them now.
Yeah.
Now, they've become reefs. They'll be for the fish.
The house, the fishies for the house.
Yeah,
The house.
yeah. So they're
have a
natural
house.
reefs.
Yeah.
Of the dome houses, and to be honest, they would be impossible to repair at this point. And they are going to good use.
That's good.
Yeah.
So,
Out of the environmental threats that we mentioned, were any of them prominent throughout Marco's history, and did any of them affect the development of the island?
It's hard. We do know that there have always, they've got records of hurricanes from the turn of the century. None so devastating that that I have ever seen that actually wiped out Marco Island.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. I think the most devastating ones have started to happen since
Irma.
Irma, 80s,
Yeah.
in 80s. There was another one before. I mean, they've gotten worse just since I've gotten here. We get hit pretty hard because we are right on Caxambas
Yeah.
Bay, and that's usually where the islands like Cape Romano have been devastated, so we're not as protected as we used to be. And it's the more water you have, the more damage that can be done, and most of it now is flooding damage, and not just the winds. We've managed to build stronger homes, build stronger windows, hurricane windows, but then the flooding is what hurts now.
Do you think we'll ever start sinking like Venice?
Oh, and I love Venice. I don't believe we will sink. I think in hundreds of years, the water will rise over us. Where Venice is a whole different problem. With the sinking of Venice. But I don't think this island would sink. I think, and that would be hundreds of years to see the water rise. I mean, those are the times they're talking about. Even New York would, be underwater. So I hope that we all have many, 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 many years to enjoy Marco Island.
Referencing the disasters you just mentioned earlier, do you worry about losing parts of the island's history?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten involved if I wasn't already worried that we were going to lose our history. I've always been envious of European cities that they have always cherished their history, and instead of tearing things down and rebuilding, they are proud of their buildings and they fix them.
Yeah.
And we Americans, we like to tear down buildings and start new.
How does the Marco Island Historical Society try to protect and share the island's story?
We try to get the story out there by, we've enhanced the museum. We built the museum, and then we've enhanced it. We have our own website now that will start actually today's the 1st, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
We have a new website that is easier for people to use and see. We win incredible awards, and every time we win an award, then it's published through museums across the United States, on magazines and articles. I mean, we're pedaling as fast as we can to share this history because it really is special and really is unknown. You know, it's so incredibly old, and so we try to get it out there about our museum. We ask schools to visit us. The museum is free to get in. I swear you could go there every day for a year and always see something new. So we're preserving everything we can find
Yeah.
about Marco Island and keeping it pristine so that people can use their imaginations to picture the way it was.
Yeah.
You know. Also, we've gotten great recognition with having the Marco Island cat
Yeah.
in the museum, which is huge since it is the most valuable artifact ever in North America. So to be able to have it, we can only have it. The Smithsonian has loaned Marco Island the cat 3 times since it was found, and it's become tougher and tougher because it is so fragile and so important and so valuable that we had to change the whole museum to be able to have the cat there. He has 24-hour security.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and when he was flown in here on a Learjet in a big metal case that was actually handcuffed to 2 agents.
Are you serious?
That's how valuable the cat is. So
Wow.
he will be going back to his drawer at the Smithsonian because he can't be out. We had to build a huge case for him that is, you know, this thermostat's perfect. The cameras are on him. At night, we had to put cameras in the police station so they monitor the cat at night. I mean, it's a big deal to have this cat.
Yeah, wow.
But we'll be losing him at the end of the summer or the winter season. He'll be going back to the Smithsonian. So if you haven't seen the cat, you will not be able to see him again in your lifetime.
Wow.
So you need to get people over there to see him.
Okay.
And he's 6 inches tall. He is pristine. He's carved out of wood. He was protected in muck for thousands of years. We also have masks from that same era when he was dug up. But most archaeologists have talked that Marco Island is like the gold mine. If you're sent to Marco Island to do a dig, that's like you've reached the top of the hill.
Yeah, you can't get any higher.
Yeah, so we've tried to get it out, but it's tough to get everyone to understand that this beautiful, serene island has so much history.
How do you protect the museum and all the artifacts during hurricanes?
Well, that's a big deal. And, you know, we had the cat here last year and the year before. And that was we were talking to the Smithsonian constantly. We actually, all of us, get our jeans on and start to sandbag and cover cases, and it's a big deal. It's everybody pulls together because it is scary.
Do you put the cat somewhere else?
No, he has to stay in that.
Really?
Yeah, he cannot be out.
So-
So we have generators.
Okay, I was going to say, 'cause
Yeah.
the power goes out, so how
Yeah.
does the thermostat?
Yeah. We had to change. The museum had to really put a lot of money into
Yeah, sure.
protect to get the cat.
Does he have like a nickname that you guys call him, or is it just the cat?
He's the cat.
The
The
cat.
cat.
The cat. He's the cat. Yeah.
The cat.
Yeah. So yeah, we worry, and you know, I felt like I wanted to sleep over there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you really get involved, and it's not just the cat. The museum is filled with artifacts.
Yeah.
So all of the cases have to be
protected.
and covered, and a lot of work goes into it. And we've been very lucky, very lucky.
If younger generations don't learn about this history, what do you think will be lost?
I think when you don't repeat history over and over again, I think you lose humanity. How else can you learn from mistakes? And so many mistakes have been made throughout history. How do you make an improvement on any of those issues if you don't study history and study where someone went wrong? And how can you learn not to repeat those mistakes? And it makes me very sad when I hear that history isn't being taught as it used to be, because I think you can save the world from making horrible mistakes
Yeah.
by looking at a problem and how was it handled at this point, and was it handled well, or was it a disaster? So history's, I think, incredibly important to our generations to come.
So what's one lesson from Marco's history that you think people should really pay attention to?
I think the environment.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that's, if there's anything to be taught here, we're surrounded by water, we're surrounded by incredible life in the water, we're surrounded on an island by wonderful animal life still. I mean, not many people can, on your way to school, have to stop for a tortoise crossing the road. Or see a panther crossing the road.
Or a coyote.
Or a coyote. Or a bobcat. Or, a bear. I mean, the environment is so important. We can't keep mowing down where animals live. We have to save some space for animals.
Yeah.
For the environment.
They were here before we were. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we can't be so selfish.
Do you think there's still efforts being made to teach the younger generations about Marco's history? Because I remember when I went to camp, like Camp Mackler, Camp Stellar, we would go to the museum all the time and have like lessons, and we would get pirate things and stuff.
Yeah. That was always my favorite part of like our field trips.
Field trips, and we still do all of those, and we've added even more so to them. And we've added things that you can go online and go through the museum online and make your own story. You can build your own house, a Mackle Brothers house, and furnish it. We've advanced all of that to just keep people involved in the history of Marco Island.
Wow.
I think we've done a really incredible job, and we don't stop. I know we just, there's the middle school. I don't know if you guys went to the middle school here on the island, but they even have put on Tommy Barfield plays about the history of Tommy Barfield. We have reenactors that the museum will pay to go to schools to reenact certain parts of history. That usually happens in the lower schools.
Yeah.
So we really want, not only do we want to preserve the history of Marco Island, we want to share it and get it out there, and we're doing it as well as I think we can.
Yeah.
I might have to take a visit.
I swear, you definitely come and see the cat and say goodbye.
Oh,
because
that's so sad.
I know. He sits, it's kind of odd because he's so important, but he's so tiny, and he kind of sits in the dark.
I think the first time I saw him, I was like, this is what everyone's talking about because he's like this big.
Yeah.
He is. He's 6 inches
But you do
tall.
have a bigger replica
Yes.
outside of the museum, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have a bronze outside of the museum.
But to end on a fun note, let's personify Marco for a second. If the island could talk, what kind of story do you think it would tell us about its people?
I think it would state that we have caring, dedicated Marconians.
Oh, for sure. Yes,
You know,
Marconian.
we still, on this little island, if you're going to live here, I've found that we are blessed with people that want to give back.
And do better.
Do better and teach people what it's about. This is a very giving island.
Yes.
And so I'm proud of our people here. You know, they've not come from very much, but made their lives rich with education, and they come to Marco Island and they share it. We have very caring people here.
Everyone on Marco is so proud to live here. I don't really hear any complaints about living on Marco. Like, we live on the beach.
I know, yeah, and that's what's. I mean, how sad can you be, or how angry can you get when a dolphin goes flipping by in
Yeah.
the morning? You know, I mean, come on, we're living in paradise.
Yeah. You would go, like, in the ocean any day you want.
Absolutely.
Like, when I heard as a kid that people have to drive hours to get to a beach, I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I was always shocked about that too.
Yeah.
But that is it for today's episode.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Champagne, for joining us. We truly, truly appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
It was really fun, yeah.
It was a delight. It was really a delight, and good luck with your podcast.
Thank
Thank you.